The Pakistan Mafia, a name whispered in hushed tones, synonymous with ruthlessness and power. This sprawling criminal network, with its tentacles reaching across continents, has carved its niche in the global drug trade. Their specialty, opium, the lifeblood of their illicit empire. From the poppy fields of Afghanistan to the streets of New York, the Mafia orchestrates a complex web of production, trafficking, and money laundering. Their influence, often hidden in plain sight, fuels violence, corrupts institutions, and leaves a trail of shattered lives in its wake. This is the story of the Pakistan Mafia's Opium Trail, a journey into the heart of a global criminal network and its devastating impact on communities worldwide. We will follow the route of their illicit trade, from the poppy fields of Afghanistan to the bustling streets of Johannesburg, exposing their methods and the human cost of their operations. The journey begins in the rugged, mountainous terrain of Afghanistan, where the opium poppy flourishes. Here, impoverished farmers cultivate the plant, their livelihoods intricately intertwined with the drug trade. The raw opium sap, harvested from the poppy seed pods, forms the base for heroin, the highly addictive opioid that fuels the Mafia's profits. Once harvested, the opium gum is carefully packaged and smuggled across the porous Afghan-Pakistan border, often by foot or on the backs of mules. The Mafia's network of informants and corrupt officials ensures safe passage through checkpoints and border crossings. In clandestine labs, skilled chemists transform the raw opium into morphine, then into heroin. The heroin, now packaged in bricks and stamped with the Mafia's insignia, makes its way to Karachi, Pakistan's bustling port city. Here, it is concealed within shipping containers, often amongst legitimate goods, and prepared for its transcontinental journey. The Black Sea, a strategic waterway connecting Eastern Europe with Asia, has become a critical route for the Pakistan Mafia's heroin trafficking operation. The Mafia exploits the region's porous borders, weak law enforcement, and established smuggling routes to move vast quantities of heroin into Europe and beyond. The journey often begins in Karachi, where heroin shipments are loaded onto cargo ships bound for ports along the Black Sea. Turkey, with its long coastline and strategic location, serves as a crucial transit hub for the Mafia's operations. Heroin shipments arrive at Turkish ports, often concealed within trucks or shipping containers, and are then transported overland to Istanbul. From Istanbul, the heroin is smuggled across the Balkans, utilizing a combination of land and sea routes. Romania and Bulgaria, both grappling with poverty, corruption, and organized crime, have become significant transit countries for the heroin trade. Once the heroin reaches Eastern Europe, it is then smuggled into Western Europe, often utilizing established smuggling routes and networks. The Pakistan Mafia, always seeking new markets and opportunities, recognized a lucrative opportunity in South Africa. Johannesburg, the country's largest city and economic hub, became a prime target. The city's sprawling townships, plagued by poverty, unemployment, and a lack of economic opportunities, provided fertile ground for the Mafia's illicit activities. They arrived with a simple yet effective business model, infiltrating and exploiting the informal economy. The Mafia's strategy centered on spaza shops, small, independently owned convenience stores found in townships across South Africa. These shops, often the lifeblood of local communities, became fronts for money laundering and drug distribution. The Mafia used a two-pronged approach, first offering loans to struggling shop owners, often with exorbitant interest rates. With control of these spaza shops, the Mafia transformed them into distribution points for heroin and other drugs. Section 5. Spaza shops, fronts for illicit activities. The Pakistan Mafia's takeover of spaza shops in South African townships was swift and strategic. They understood that these small businesses, often the only source of essential goods in marginalized communities, were vital to the local economy. Their plan was not to dismantle this system, but to exploit it from within, turning these hubs of commerce into fronts for their criminal enterprises. The Mafia's initial tactic was deceptively benign, offering loans to struggling spaza shop owners. These loans, often with little to no paperwork and seemingly generous terms, provided a much-needed lifeline for shop owners facing financial difficulties. However, This act of apparent generosity masked a sinister motive. The interest rates on these loans were exorbitant, trapping shop owners in a cycle of debt they couldn't escape. As the debts mounted, the Mafia exerted its control, turning spaza shops into distribution points for drugs and counterfeit goods. Section 6. Laundering profits, a global network. The Pakistan Mafia, like any sophisticated criminal organization, understands that its survival depends on generating illicit profits and laundering those profits to avoid detection. Their operations span continents using a web of businesses, financial institutions, and individuals. They use spaza shops and other businesses in South Africa to inject dirty money into the economy. Profits from illicit activities are mixed with legitimate sales, making it hard to distinguish between legal and illegal income. They rely on hawalas to move funds across borders quickly and discreetly. Money is transferred through brokers using code words and false identities, making it hard for law enforcement to track. They also invest illicit profits in legitimate businesses, both in South Africa and abroad. Section 7. The human cost, communities in crisis. The Pakistan Mafia's operations, while seemingly distant and removed from everyday life, have a devastating impact on communities across the globe. Their pursuit of profit and power leaves a trail of shattered lives, fueled by addiction, violence, and the erosion of social fabric. In Afghanistan, farmers caught in the cycle of opium production face poverty, exploitation, and the constant threat of violence. Along the trafficking routes, communities grapple with the consequences of increased drug use, addiction, and crime. The influx of heroin into countries like Turkey, Bulgaria, and Romania fuels a public health crisis, overwhelming healthcare systems and straining social services. In South Africa, the Mafia's takeover of spaza shops has had a devastating impact on township economies. By flooding these communities with cheap, addictive drugs, they have fueled a cycle of addiction, crime, and violence. The human cost of the Pakistan Mafia's operations is immeasurable, perpetuating a cycle of poverty, addiction, and violence that devastates communities and undermines the rule of law. Section 8. Combating the Mafia, a call to action. The Pakistan Mafia's network spans continents and is entwined with corrupt officials, posing a global challenge. Combating this enterprise requires addressing both symptoms and root causes. International cooperation and intelligence sharing are vital to disrupt their operations. Efforts to curb opium production in Afghanistan remain crucial. Strengthening border security and addressing corruption are essential to disrupting heroin flow. In South Africa, supporting legitimate businesses and empowering communities is key. Combating the Pakistan Mafia requires tackling poverty, inequality, and corruption.